Well, unfortunately for Kings fans, the real fun starts when this season ends and we can really focus on the lottery and the draft. Nice enough to join us and help us with more on that. NBA draft analyst from Babcock Hoops, Matt Babcock. How are you today, Matt?
No, I'm doing great. How are you?
We're doing fine. You know, it's been kind of a rough season, but we're starting to see at least the draft light at the end of the tunnel. Do you think, with the NBA so upset about all the tanking, is this draft class going to be worth all the tanking that we're seeing at the bottom of the NBA standings?
I think it's an interesting question. I would say from a scout's perspective, the potential and the upside is significant. It's there. I think most of these guys looking near the top are 18, 19 years old. Are all of them going to maximize their potential? No, probably not. But I mean, we do have several guys with legitimate star potential. So it certainly is an exciting draft.
Matt, I've been going back and forth with a lot of people because after you leave the top four, a lot of guards, Matt, and a lot of guards outside of Keaton Wagler that are under 6'5", and that worries me, Matt. All these guards, they can't be all-stars, right? Is there a ranking that you have? Do you think that it's safe to assume, the Darius Akuffs and the Michael Brown Juniors, do you think they're all going to be really good? It just worries me in where the NBA is going right now, Matt.
I would say a few things. I mean, I think the smaller guard thing is real, and I think a lot of that depends on your coach and like how they want to play. When you draft a smaller guard, it naturally creates a lot more limitations, specifically on the defensive end. I mean, if you want to be real switchable and sort of positionless, if you've got a speedy small guard, I mean, that's just probably not going to happen on the level a coach like that would want. However, offensively, this group of guards, they're all different and unique in their own way, but I mean, very, very talented group. In my role as an NBA draft analyst, a big part of it is doing the rankings, and ultimately we'll create a mock draft. And it's I feel like I'm already having to split hairs trying to compare these guys because there's just a lot of talent. And so I mean it's for me and for these teams, good problems to have. I mean, sort of pick your poison, if you will.
Matt Babcock with us. Excuse me, Matt. Pardon me. I know that you have served as a scout, among other things. Boy, pardon me. I wanted to ask you, as Kings fans watch more and more college here as the lottery approaches, and we start to scout some of these players, what are some tips you can give us? I know you don't want to tell us everything you do, and we probably wouldn't understand half of it, but what are you looking at as a scout? What should fans be looking at when they, quote-unquote, scout some of these college prospects that will be turning pro?
No, sure. I mean, there's a lot of things we look at. I mean, I think from if you're looking at it from a lens from your couch, obviously, I think physical tools that are translatable to the next level, and just talent. I mean, it really isn't rocket science when we're doing a breakdown of a player's basketball talent. I think a lot of sort of dedicated fans can do that part of it at a high level. I would say this, though. There's a lot more to it between there being identifying talent that could be a good player in the NBA to getting to the point where a general manager is putting his neck on the line to pull the trigger, make a decision, a multi-million-dollar investment into a player. And that goes into, analytics, background intel, getting to know the kids personally and getting a feel for them. I mean, it's really like, doing a search for one of the most important roles of a company. It's a hiring process, and it's sophisticated. It's, I think the good ones are very detail oriented. And so, I mean, every variable, which there are so many, they matter. And so it's the way I look at an evaluation is there needs to be a well-balanced, sort of formula to it.
Mm-hmm. Matt, we were having this conversation because as far as the fifth pick is concerned, it seems like if you ask 10 people, you might get 10 different answers. If the Kings get the fifth pick, which there's a 50% chance that happens, if they get the fifth pick, Matt, do you think they are still in a position to get a franchise-changing player, or would you even think about possibly trading down and some of these teams that have two picks, let's say the Falcons, for example, or excuse me, the Hawks, for example, if they have the 7th and 25th pick, would you be interested in that if you're the Kings, or 11 and 16 for the Thunder, or do you think even that fifth pick is that important that if you're the Kings, you'd hold on to it?
I think the Kings are in an interesting situation. I mean, kind of looking at their roster, sort of like their future contract structures and whatnot, they've got a pretty, aging team. and they got a lot of big money coming off the books after next season. They almost have somewhat of a clean slate as far as what direction they want to go as far as their long-term building. And so, I mean, I think the internal conversations are going to be just that. Like, okay, we have different options here, good options. Okay, say they're at 5. I mean, you could be looking at guys like Kingston Flemings or Keaton Wagler at Illinois, Darius Akuff, Nate Ament. I mean, the list goes on. But again, a lot of different style of players. And I do think there are guys that could be, really significant building blocks long term. And it's just, again, pick your poison. I mean, what direction do we want to go? What do we want our team identity to be? But long story short, I think everything will be on the table as far as looking at options for trades. But I do think you could add a really nice player at 5.
Joined by Matt Babcock, former scout, agent, of course, now in the media. Matt, that's something I want to ask is you being an agent for a decade and change, take me to the Darren Peterson situation. If you were his agent, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but you see some of the things that's coming out, but we know he has he's super talented. How would you go about, pitching him as the agent, of course, trying to get him to be the number 1 pick?
Oh man, that's a tough question. And, and the thing is a lot of the narrative and the questions and criticism that's in the public right now with Darren Peterson. I mean, a lot of those questions are behind closed doors too, with people like myself and NBA personnel. And I've said this, before in these interviews is, there feels like there's a lot more questions than answers right now. I've been at a lot of the KU games recently. I saw him 3 times the last few days at Arizona and Arizona State. His agent and his parents were at both games. I was watching close. I know his agent real well, Darren Mathabar at Wasserman. And, from my perspective, there does seem like there's been a lot of micromanagement going on behind the scenes. And what's interesting is a lot of this was going on when he was even in high school. And so that raises, I don't want to say raises red flags, but it does raise some questions. And I think the pre-draft process is going to be very interesting as far as giving teams the comfortability they need to take this guy, 1, 2, or 3 in a draft where there's really great options. And long story short, but from an agent's perspective, I don't know, because I don't know exactly what's going on. I don't think anybody really does. But my approach would be, okay, what is our strategy for this draft? Do we want him to be the number 1 pick? I'm assuming so. In that case, we need to make sure we're providing all the information that team needs to feel comfortable enough to take him. Because the talent's there, even though he hasn't been playing that well the last few games. He's a very talented guy. It's just more of just answering some of these questions, because the optics have been bad. There's no denying that. And so really just providing clarity to the teams, I think that would be the strategic approach.
Matt, A.J. Debonsa appears to be a fan favorite around here, and we have reason to think he's an organizational favorite as well. What's the biggest upside going to the next level for A.J. Debonsa in your eyes? What right now looks like maybe his biggest drawback potentially?
A guy that's had so much hype since he was a freshman in high school, really, and he checks so many boxes. I mean, he feels like he was built in a video game. I mean, the guy's 6'9", he's long, he's athletic, he's tough, and really doesn't have any significant weaknesses. I'd say outside shooting, I think he's got room for growth there, but I mean, I wouldn't even consider that a weakness. Mm-hmm. And so I think the upside is this is a dynamic matchup nightmare. I mean, whatever position you're, I mean, I think he's naturally a small forward, but he's big, he's going to get stronger, and he's so competitive. He's just an alpha dog. And so, I mean, the whole argument between him and Peterson, let's just look at it from a traditional scouting standpoint. Both are talented as heck. And it's going into the season, it was close for me. And I think, AJ at this point is given so much confidence of like, hey, this guy's an alpha dog. He plays hard and he competes and he's versatile. I just really has a chance to be a star player. And, I think with the NBA specifically, it's a star-driven league, and it's easy to have confidence that AJ is going to be a guy that's going to be the face of a franchise.
Matt, March Madness is around the corner, and we know that March Madness can be very guard heavy. Do you think that could alter how the draft ultimately goes? You remember, obviously, Steph Curry doing his thing, and that really helped his draft stock. Do you think that could help one of these guards that has a hot March? And do you think it might end up biting a team because that player that maybe wasn't on their board to start has a hot couple weeks?
Yeah, it's interesting from that standpoint because it's funny. I'm an NBA draft analyst, but I spent so much time watching college basketball. I almost feel like a college basketball analyst at certain times, just sort of sort of organically, and especially with NIL, all these international guys keep coming over. So, I mean, I am so locked in on college basketball, and, it's a very guard-heavy draft. However, you look at these top teams, they're all big and physical. A lot of them are older. And, I mean, you kind of mixing in some young talent, too. And so it's really become, the college basketball game as a product as a whole is really a mature physical game. I mean, much more so than the NBA. NBA is so spread out and sort of more about finesse and shooting threes. College basketball, I'm expecting the first 2 rounds to be these big programs steamrolling these what would have been Cinderella teams in years past, and then we're going to get into the Sweet 16, and it's going to be a bloodbath, and it's going to be awesome, and that's my expectation. But as far as like gaining momentum from a draft stock standpoint, yeah, absolutely. Not even just guards. I think just in general, the guys that do well in March tend to lean into getting drafted on their high side come draft time.
Hey, Matt, you at one point in time, if I'm not mistaken, you had negotiated the highest second-round draft pick contract at that time back in maybe about a decade or so. I remember having that discussion with you a while ago. The Kings have 2 second-round draft picks high in the second round. Can you give us a couple of feelers out there who maybe, the Kings could be interested or maybe just brings a smile to your face that we should target?
It's really interesting. I mean, since the time I negotiated that contract, and for one, a lot of people probably say that was blind luck, and might have been true. But the second round this year is, I really think it's going to be interesting as far as which guys, test the waters, go to the NBA draft combine, and which ones stay in the draft, because this current college basketball landscape, I mean, it's like nothing we've ever seen. These numbers, as far as the amount of money these guys are getting paid, keeps going up. And so if a guy has eligibility left and he's not a lock to be let's say a top 20 pick, I don't know if those guys should stay in the draft. And so, that being said, I'm not sure how many underclassmen will actually be.
Do we lose?
The question is the player pool. I mean, who's going to be there? And so I really don't have any good answers for it. And it really makes my job challenging of like doing these rankings and big boards and whatnot, because it's just, you get into the 30s. I mean, how many seniors are there,
That's Matt Babcock, NBA draft analyst, Babcock Hoops. I want to ask you about Darius Akuff. We've heard some comps that say he might be kind of like a Mike Bibby type player going forward. Obviously, Darius Akuff's star appears to be rising. Matt, could he be the first point guard drafted? And what do you think of his game and the way he's coming around?
Sorry, you cut out there. So you said Darius Akuff?
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah, Darius Akuff's a very talented guy. And another guy, I mean, very, very hyped up in high school. I've watched him a lot for a long time. And, he's just been so productive. And it's one of those things where, it's almost at this point undeniable of, like, his talent. I mean, he just, it's tough on-ball guard that's done a really good job of, like, developing as a floor general in his shot making. I mean, he's tough. He gets to his spots. He's shooting with range. I think in an NBA game where there's more floor spacing, he has a chance of being a very dynamic guy on the offensive end. And he is on the smaller side. I mean, he's very strong and tough. He's not a long, vertical athlete as much, but he's tough, can do spots, and he could score. And at the end of the day, that's worth a lot.
Matt, a guy that's kind of sat there between, I haven't seen him at 5, but he's been between, I don't know, I would say 6 and 9 is Nate Ament. Now, you talk about, the size on some of these guards. There are a lot of guards after 5, but Nate Ament's just been kind of holding steady there as a forward at 6'10". When I turn on the tape, Matt, I want to like him a lot, but it looks like the foot speed isn't quite there, and there's some question marks. I know he can shoot the 3, but he doesn't fully have it yet. What are your thoughts on Nate Ament, and does he kind of project as more of a project than some of these other players?
I think with Ament, it's been interesting. He's had somewhat of an up and down year. I think there were certain phases he was facing quite a bit of criticism of being very inconsistent and whatnot. I think a lot of it is we're just really spoiled with so much young talent this year that are producing at such a high level. At the end of the day, I don't know exactly how old he is, but 18, 19 years old. He's a young guy he's big. I mean, he's 6'10 plus, might still be growing. They play him exclusively as a 3. I think he could ultimately be like a hybrid forward, shoots threes, puts it on the floor, great feel for the game, and his the background research on him, intel on him is like through the roof. And so, again, a guy that's big and versatile and skilled that probably has a lot of room for growth. I think he's in the mix of that mid-lottery of another guy. If it clicks on all cylinders, I mean, it could be another star-level guy.
Matt, I'll stay kind of right there. Someone that I think started super, super high and early in the season and now seems to have cooled out is COA Pete from Arizona. What's your thoughts on COA Pete?
Yeah, I've been very familiar with COA. I mean, I've watched Arizona a lot all year. And recently, I'm actually in Arizona now, kind of wrapping up a trip. I've watched them twice. And, I started the season, my first game of the year was watching Arizona beat Florida. And he was out of this world. I mean, 30 points against the defending champion. And I think I was part of the group that put him, I can't remember where I put him exactly, but probably somewhere between 5 and 8. And he's dropped a little bit. I think, one thing I'm juggling with him is he's a power forward that does not shoot the ball real well from outside. And so he's become somewhat polarizing from an NBA lens because the NBA is all about spacing and just, sort of this modern version of basketball. And so he doesn't traditionally fit into that mold. However, I don't want to lose sight that he's a really good player. I mean, he's so powerful and athletic. His vertical explosion is incredible. He's almost like a Charles Barkley type. And the other night I watched Arizona versus Iowa State against Joshua Jefferson, who's been terrific all year. And COA Pete just locked him down. I mean, I think he shot like 2 for 19 or something like that. And, he's a guy, even though I don't know if he's going to go in that, 5 to 8 range, he's still probably a late lottery, mid first round pick. And I'd be surprised if he wasn't in that range.
Matt, whoever gets Cam Boozer, it's funny, we haven't even talked about Cam Boozer, and he's kind of the forgotten guy in this draft. But the team that gets him, whoever that is, how happy do you think they'll end up being with Cam Boozer?
Oh, they should be really happy. And, there's some people that have talked to me about him even being a potential number 1 pick. And the way I personally wouldn't have him, with Peterson and Debonsa, like I mentioned before, with Peterson specifically, I do think there's a lot of work that still needs to be done to get to the point to pull the trigger on a guy at that high. But I will say this with Boozer, even though I don't think he has quite as much upside as those guys, he's probably the safest pick in the draft. And, he's different. He's different than his dad as a player. I think he's got a lot more to his game, specifically being able to shoot the ball. And I think his playmaking for his size and physicality is incredible. I think he'll have, if I were to bet on it, I think he'll probably have a comparable career as his dad as far as effectiveness and whatnot. And that's a great career. And other names have been brought up like Kevin Love, Al Horford. And so, I think with Peterson and Debonsa, these guys have potential. And again, potential is the key word here. It's not a for sure thing of being like all-time greats. I think Boozer has a very good chance of being an all-star. So probably, higher floor, lower ceiling.
All right. Gotcha. Matt, we appreciate your insight and your time very, very much. We know you're busy. We look forward to your next reporting on the upcoming draft. Thank you, and we hope to talk to you again soon.
Hey, thanks, guys.
That's Matt Babcock. Babcock Hoops, NBA draft analyst, been a scout, Alan, so I'm sure you could relate to some of the things he was saying in terms of scouting players.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That is.
How do you approach, an evaluation of a player?
Me personally,
yes, you.
I've always liked to give different player comps, right? I get scared if I don't know who you are at the next level. Now, if you're LeBron or somebody like that, then you are who you are.
Great. Then let's go. Darren Peterson, give us your official comp.
I think people have said an Anthony Edwards type of player. I don't see the explosiveness as far as his athleticism, but I get that.
AJ Debonsa. Because I know if that's how you look at players, and I know you've seen all these players, so I know you have these.
I think AJ does have I know he just got drafted, but off the top of my head, he's just one of those guys that fits into the ball handling wings. I took that term, and now I just run with it. The ball handling wings,
sure.
Whether that's Cooper Flagg, Denny, all these guys that are over 6'6", but they have the ball. The Jalen Johnsons, he's in that chapter of the book. I don't know what part of the book, or I know what part, I just don't know, what paragraph, but he's in that chapter of the book.
I understand why scouts maybe do that, and I understand why in the media it's a useful way to give people an idea of what players are like if they if they haven't been on big stage very much. But it makes me shake my head when you hear coaches talking about their new players and they compare them to like greats. It's like I don't really see the upside there.
Well, I didn't necessarily do it because I didn't want to do it, but you'll see comps of guys that were drafted 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So they'll say, well, this guy is this dude. Well, we don't know who that dude is.
Right.
We don't know this guy. Okay, that doesn't help me.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll tell you what, Whitey.
Yeah.
I mean, there's somebody out there. I don't know if we're going to do it now.
You got a guy
I
again?
got a real sleeper.
A sleeper?
The sleepiest of the sleepers. I can't wait.
For what? For just the entire draft or?
The first round, Jay, top 20. This is the guy. This is the guy. And I can't wait.
The guy for what? Because I'm trying to get an understanding.
No, I don't know how the Kings can get him based on where he's at because he's one of the middle of the first guys. But I've been grinding film, and I cannot
wait. That's always dangerous.
No,
I bet
it is.
you in the highlights you saw, he probably made most of his shots.
Oh, he didn't miss.
Yeah.
He didn't miss. But again, this is one of those, you guys, you know who I like, these ball-handling wings.
Right.
Okay? And I've always thought of that term. Mm-hmm. You know, I always like that term.
Well, who is it?
Kareem Lopez.
That's my guy. Remember I told you about him.
Kareem
By the way, he's
Lopez.
Yeah, I told you about Kareem Lopez.
I like him.
I like
Was
him
he New
too.
Zealand? Where is he at?
Oh,
Yeah.
my.
Australia or something?
But
right?
that's the thing, Jay. Everybody's watching college.
I told you about Kareem Lopez.
He's
you
probably
don't
the
remember,
most.
do you?
I do not.
Oh.
He's probably the most underrated, and I thought this for a while. The most underrated guy.
It's funny
because
you didn't say that when I said, "Hey, how about Kareem Lopez?"
I hadn't grinded the tape yet.
It was like the Sean Cunningham.
No,
who?
But
I don't
guys,
know.
but this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm doing right now. Right here, guys. You get Darius Akuff at 7, or even still, you get LeBaron at 10, and you can get my guy Kareem Lopez at 18. I think I'm doing that than taking 5.
If Allen were running the Kings,
Yes.
they would trade out of the top 3 pick. And
No,
they'd end up
no.
with LeBaron and Violet and Kareem Lopez. They'd be going, "Yep,
I'd do that for
Nailed
5.
it.
I would do it for 5.
Let me ask you something, because I think you would be the one, and I know where Whitey would go. If you have the number 4 pick, Caleb, Peterson, and AJ are done, and you know you're looking at Boozer for the most part. And if you don't take Boozer, most people are going to pretty much, chastise you,
Right.
especially being the Sacramento Kings. Are you trading back, or are you taking Boozer?
This is a great question. If you're the Kings,
You said 4, right?
Yeah, if you're
you said
4.
Peterson, Debonsa, and
Caleb are gone.
Caleb jumped up. That's an outstanding question, Jay. I'll say this. If you're the Kings, you can't trade out of Cam Boozer. You can't do it. Because as much as I might not be as high on him from an athletic standpoint, there's also something to be said about a culture. And we know he's got the bloodline. He's at Duke. He's doing his thing. I'm sorry, Jay. I want to, Jay. I can't do it. I got to take Cam Boozer.
Is it because more or less you're the Kings, or is it okay?
I think so.
Yeah.
To me,
Is it a history of the Kings?
I'm with you. To me, it would be this. You're not starting from scratch yet because you have veterans, but you're putting everything together. You're not trying to find somebody who fills a specific role because we need that or we need that. It's probably going to be a years-long process in which you're trying to do whatever you can to acquire and accumulate the best players you can. Mm-hmm. So if you get a shot at him, you got to take it.
You have to. You have to. Because even if he doesn't have the highest ceiling, he's still going to make your team immensely better.
But you're saying that if I'm hearing both of you correctly, you're saying that as the Sacramento Kings versus if you're the Washington Wizards.
I think it applies to a lot of teams.
So, okay,
And I think
gotcha.
he's better than, for some reason, the narrative with him.
What if
is
you're
kinda
Dallas?
I'm swinging. I'm not taking Cam.
You're not?
No.
Oh, I think I would.
Well, that's a funny one because they got their guy in Cooper. So Boozer and Cooper, you can't say no to Boozer and Cooper. Yeah, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess it depends on the team, Jay. But the Kings, if you take a swing on Darius Akuff and it doesn't work out, and Cam Boozer just is a 3-time All-Star,
All-Star. His dad,
is a bad
20-7.
You can't say no. That's a great. I never thought about if Caleb jumped though, because he might come back.
I think
You don't
he
know.
is. Yeah.
Boozer might end up going higher than that.
Well,
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. I don't like that, Jay, because I would want Caleb. I would
too. Me personally.
Of all the teams the Kings should pattern themselves after, could one of them be the Charlotte Hornets? We'll examine that when we come right back to Sactown Sports.